This video is going to be for those building your own bot on NinjaTrader. We're going to show you how to add multiple ATR profit targets, an ATR based stop loss, and even trail that stop loss using ATR. And this is all going to be done using NinjaTrader's Strategy Builder. Now, this is not a strategy on its own. This is meant to be used with your own strategy. I'm just showing you how to create your own custom order management. So, not trading advice, please don't come after me. But with that, let's get right into it. For this example, we're going to be using NinjaTrader's Strategy Builder. To open the Strategy Builder, you just go to your control panel, New Strategy Builder. You come up to this page, we're going to go to New Strategy, select Next. Then under the name, we can type anything we want. Let's just say ATR Order Management. Then we select Next. Now in this page is the calculate method. This is how often it's going to perform any sort of calculation. The most popular is on bar close. This just means when a bar closes, it's going to perform the entire calculation of your script. Now, because we're doing a custom order management, we are not using the stop and targets page. We're staying away from this one for this example. Because of that, I do recommend using either on price change or on each tick. This is because once we submit our order, there needs to be another calculation before we can submit our stop and our profit targets. On bar close just means we submit our order, it's going to wait until the next bar closes, and then it's going to submit our profit and stop. That's going to expose us to a lot of trouble. So for this example, do not use on bar close. I'm going to use on price change because it's a little bit less CPU intensive, but you can also use on each tick if that's what you want. It'll actually make the profit and stop come in a little bit faster. But for most scenarios, on price change is going to be plenty good enough. So the next thing we need in this page is we go down to the more properties and we're going to select entries per direction. I'm going to change this to 2. This just means we have the ability for 2 separate entries. Because we're using multiple profit targets, we're going to have to separate this into 2 separate entries. This does not mean you can only enter 2 contracts. This means you can enter as many contracts as you want 2 separate times. And I'll show you why we need this as we're building our multiple profit targets. So for now, however many profit targets you want, just change this number to match that amount. So I'm just going to go to 2 and I'm going to select next. For additional data, we don't need that for this example. Let's just hit next. Now in your inputs and variables page, this is where we're going to create variables that store information. So for your inputs, these are going to be variables that the user can customize within the strategy properties. So for example, I'm just going to pull up the Predator here. Any one of these options, these are your inputs. So the user can customize this whatever they want. This is what we're building within the inputs. So things like your position size, your tick targets, where you want your stop set. If you're using a moving average, maybe the moving average period, things like that that you want to be able to easily customize within the properties. This is what we're going to type in here. So for today's example, we're going to be using ATR. So I'm going to get the ATR period just in case you want to customize it later on. So ATR period, my default, it's usually set at 14. That's good enough for this example. So we would just define the integer, default 14, then we have that set and we can use it within our strategy later on. Now, things like your position size for each separate target, that's something I also want to define. So quantity 1, this is also an integer. I'm going to leave the first profit target at 1. That's good enough. Then because we're doing 2 separate profit targets, we don't just submit one order. We actually submit 2 orders at the same time, and each one will have its separate stop, separate profit target. So I'll show you how to build that as we're going. But for now, I'm going to name this one quantity 2. And just so we can see the difference, I'm going to set the default to 2. All right, now we're going to define our profit target. When we're using ATR, I'm just going to take the current value and multiply it by a multiplier. And then we're going to add that to the current price, and that's going to give us our profit target. Don't worry, I'll show you how that looks on the chart later on. But for now, we just need a value to multiply our ATR by. Profit multiplier, and this one can be a double because it has decimals. For the default, my first profit target, I'm just going to set it right at the ATR. That is fine. For the minimum, I'm going to change this to 0.1, just in case you want something less than 1 times the current ATR. So we're just going to change that. I'm going to add profit multiplier 1, and then I'm going to do profit multiplier 2 for our second profit target. Multiplier. If I can spell, that would be even better. All right, so this one is also a double. The minimum, again, I'm going to change to 0.1. This one, I'm doing 5 times the ATR. Now, we're going to be doing the same thing, but for our stop loss. We're going to take the current price, we're going to take the ATR value, multiply it, and set our stop loss based on that value. Now, we have 2 options. We can choose a different stop loss value for each one of our entries, or we can just use the exact same value and our stop is going to remain at that same level. So for this example, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to use one stop loss value that we're going to use for both entries. So stop multiplier. This one, again, double, minimum 0.1. And we're going to set our stop loss, let's say 2 times the ATR. All right, to not get too ahead of ourselves, I'm going to leave it like this for now. We're first going to build our entry, our profit, and our stop. Then we're going to come back and get a little bit more complicated and build our trail stop. So for now, this is good enough. Let's go down to our variables page, because now these are going to be containers that store a value for a later use, but they're not going to be customizable by the user. These are going to be updated as our strategy progresses. So I'm going to add, I need something that is going to store our profit target value and our stop value. So I'm just going to say store profit 1. This is going to be a double. Default, it doesn't matter. It's going to get updated as our strategy progresses. We're going to define the value at that time. So just do that. And we need one for our second profit target as well. Store profit 2, double. Now we also need one for our stop target. Store stop, and that should be good. Double, okay. All right, once we have that, let's go to the next page and start building our strategy. All right, conditions and actions. This is where we actually create our strategy. We're going to enter our orders, set our stop, profit targets, everything that we need to do. So set number 1, we're going to build our long entry conditions. So I'm just going to add. The first thing I like to do is make sure we are in a flat position. There's no current trade taking place. So strategy, current market position equals to strategy, market position, flat. Now for this part, we're going to build our actual entry condition. This is the part you can modify. You can make it whatever you want. I'm just doing something so it actually enters an order. Again, this is not trading advice. I'm not saying trade like this. This is the part you would most likely modify in your own strategy. So I'm just going to build a group to hide them all into one spot. It just makes it a little bit cleaner. You don't have to do this. You can just hit add and build out your entire strategy. Do what works best for you. But in this group, I'm going to select the if all, and I'm just going to say long entry condition, change this part, exclamation marks. So once we have that, I'm going to add. Then all I'm going to do is, if we have 2 green bars in a row and we break above the third one and we're above some sort of a moving average, we're going to enter long. So I'm just going to go to price. If the close is greater than price open. And I'm going to do 2 bars ago for each one. That is the most current bar that is getting updated is 0. 1 immediately to the left is 1. The one immediately to the left of that one is going to be 2. And the bars are a little small here, but we'll show you how that works in a little bit. All I'm saying is if 2 bars ago, the close is greater than the open, so it is a green bar, then I'm going to do the same thing. Price close of bars ago 1 is greater than price open bars ago 1. So if 2 candles immediately to the left are green, and then I'm going to say if price close of the most current candle that is currently being updated is greater or equal to the high of the previous candle. So if we're breaking above the high, then we're going to enter long. And just to give us a little bit of a difference, I'm also going to add if price close 0 is greater than, I'm just going to add some sort of a moving average. Again, I'm not saying this is profitable or it's anything. I'm just making things up as we're going. And I'm going to change the period to 50. So if our current price is greater than a 50 SMA and we have 2 green candles in a row, we break above the last one, we are going to enter long. So once all of that is good, just hit OK. So once we have our entry conditions, let's go down to our lower box here and we're going to select add. Now we're going to enter our order. So order management, enter a long position. The quantity, we're going to change that to our user input. These are the customizable options. Quantity 1. Now we have to give it a signal name so we can attach it to our profit and stop later on. So long entry 1. Now we're going to do the same for our second entry order. So enter long position. The quantity is going to be quantity number 2. And this one we will name long entry 2. Because remember, it's not just one order, it's 2 separate orders with different profit targets. All right, when we enter our order, this is where we have to define where our profit and where our stop values are going to be set at. So remember, that is, these variables are going to store the value of our profit and our stop targets. So let's add. We are first going to do our profit targets. So I'm going to go to MISC. We're going to set store profit 1. Down here we go to set. And for this one, I'm going to set it at the most current price. I'm going to add the ATR and multiply that ATR. Don't worry, I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So I'm going to go to price, close, and I'm going to do bars to go 0. That is the most current closing price. Now make sure you have the add under the offset, and we're going to set. Now we're going to add our indicator and scroll down to our ATR. From here, you can choose to plot it on the chart if you want. If you want to keep it clean, you don't have to, but just for the sake of this video, I am going to plot it. But again, it's going to calculate regardless whether you have it on or not. This is just if you want an actual visual of the ATR. So once we have the ATR, I'm going to add a period for that ATR. And remember, we defined our user input for that period, and that way we can customize it later on. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky because now we have to multiply that ATR. So we go to the offset again in the ATR section. We're going to multiply, then we're going to set it by our user input. And now we select our profit multiplier 1. So once we have that, we can hit OK, OK, OK. Okay, so let's just take a look at the code to make sure we understand what is happening. Our store profit variable is going to be equals to the most current closing price plus the current ATR that is being multiplied by our multiplier user input. So it's going to multiply our current ATR and it's going to add it to our most current price. So that's all we're doing for our profit target. So once we have that, now we're going to do profit number 2. So add misc set store profit 2 set. We're going to do the most current price first. So close plus an indicator, ATR, plot on chart if that's what you want, select the period, user input, ATR period. Then for the offset, we're changing this to a multiply, set user input profit multiplier 2. Okay. So now we have our profit target number 2. Now we got to do that for our stop as well. So add misc set store stop, set price close. Now we're entering long, so here's our entry. Our profit targets are going to be up. Our stop is going to be down. So from the offset, make sure you select the negative. Now again, set indicator, ATR, everything is staying the same. We're selecting the period, user input, ATR period. The offset, we're also multiplying this by our stop multiplier. So if we look at the code, it's basically the same, but we're taking the close price minus that ATR multiplied by our user input. Now, one thing I want to mention is I am using the close price because that is the most current price. I'm not using average position price just yet because with Strategy Builder, it usually takes a little bit for it to update. So if you were to change this to your average position price, it would most likely read 0 at this point, which would give you an entirely wrong price. So for that reason, I switched to using close. It's a little bit better to have an existing value than one that needs to be updated first. So that's why I use close and not average position price when it comes to these custom order management. But with that, we are moving on to set number 2. So I'm just going to add number 2. Now for set number 2, this is where we're going to set our profit and our stop exit orders. So what we do is go to add. We must make sure we are in a current long position. You don't want to be setting off exit orders if you're not actually in a position. So strategy, current market position is equals to strategy, market position, long. All right, once we are in a long position, let's submit our exit orders. So the first thing I'm going to do is our first profit target. So order management, we want to scroll down to exit long by a limit order. So from entry signal, this is long entry 1. Now we set our limit price on this one. So we go down to our user variable and we select our store profit 1. This is the value from set number 1. The quantity, let's set this to, again, our user input, quantity number 1. And we'll give this one its own signal name. So long profit 1. Now we're going to do the same for profit target number 2. Order management, exit long by a limit order, long entry 2. Make sure these signal names match exactly how we have them in set number 1, or else you're going to have a whole lot of problems. So limit order is going to be store profit 2. Quantity, quantity number 2. Signal name, long profit 2. Now we have to do our stop orders. So add order management. This time we're going to exit a long order by a stop order. from entry signal, long entry 1, quantity, user input, quantity 1, signal name, we will call this one long stop 1, and our stop price is going to be user variable store stop. Now, even though these are sharing the exact same stop value, we still need to create a separate order for each one. So again, we're going to add order management, exit long by a stop order, long entry 2, quantity, user input, quantity 2, signal name, long stop 2, stop price, we will use the same user variable, store stop. So now they're managing their own separate entry order, even though they are both using the same value. Now, this next part is very important when it comes to custom order handling with Strategy Builder. When we are submitting our own exit orders like this, and we are not using the stop and targets page, we need to understand exactly how this works. And what I mean by that is when we submit an exit order, it's only going to be live for 1 bar. When that 1 bar closes, it's going to cancel our order. Now, I don't know why it's done like this, but that is how it works. So in order to get around this, we need a way to keep resubmitting our exit orders on each new bar. Now, the problem comes when we're using on price change or on each tick, and we just leave our exit orders like this. So when it's long, submit our order. So that basically means that on each price change, or if you're using on each tick, it's just going to constantly keep resubmitting your order over and over again. So what happens a lot, especially on live accounts, is if the price is reaching that stop order, it will come close to it and then basically resubmit. And that is where you get this error. Or even what I've been seeing a lot lately is if you resubmit an order while it's still processing through the broker, you might get some sort of an atomic error code like this, which is basically just telling you, hey, we haven't processed this order, stop resubmitting the same order. So while Strategy Builder's order handling is very limited, especially when it comes to submitting orders like this, there are some steps we can take to help prevent a lot of these errors. But ultimately, I do suggest after testing your strategy on a sim and you do plan on running it live, I do recommend either doing some sort of custom code with better order handling, or use something like the Predator where you can easily take your Strategy Builder strategy and have those orders managed through its signal system. All of the order management we're building today can be easily done through the Predator with just a few clicks. But that is going to be up to you. For now, let's take a look at this situation and see what is the best way to handle it. So we know our orders are going to be canceled at the end of the bar. So we need to keep resubmitting these orders. But we know if we keep resubmitting over and over, it's going to cause problems as well. So the best thing to do is I'm going to create a group and I'm going to select the if any option and I'm going to go to add. So there's a condition within Strategy Builder or NinjaTrader in general where you can execute your code only on the first tick of a bar. So that is going to make it so our orders are only getting updated once per bar. So MISC, scroll down to is first tick of bar, is equals to MISC, and we select true. So only when it's the first tick of bar, we are going to resubmit our order. So now the problem with this comes when we enter an order. Now we have to wait until that bar closes in order to submit our exit orders. This is obviously not a good situation. It leaves you exposed to the trade going against you. So what we need to do in this situation is create another Boolean that's going to give us either the first tick of bar or if the Boolean is true. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Let's hit the back button and we're going to our variable section. We're going to type in initial entry. This is going to be a bool and we're going to set this to false. So once we have that, I'm going back to our conditions and actions, and I'm going to go to set number 1, and I want to make my first condition add. I want to make sure when we enter an initial trade that this initial entry does equals MISC, and we select false. So only when it's false, we're going to get our initial entry. Once we enter our order, I'm going to add MISC set initial entry, and we're going to switch this to true. So that is going to flip this true and false statement to true. That is going to be one of our conditions up here. So again, in set number 2, we're going to our condition. Make sure again, if any is selected, is first tick of bar, or if our user variable initial entry is equals to MISC and true. So what is happening? We're entering a trade. We are switching the bool to true. That is going to make this code execute immediately. So then we are going to be able to submit our exit and our stop order. Now we have to switch this bool back to false, or else it's going to keep resubmitting. So again, MISC initial entry, leave it unchecked. This means it's going to be false. All right, so just to recap, let's go to set number 1. We enter a trade, we turn this boolean to true. So once we are in a long position and either the bool is true or it's the first tick of bar, we are going to be able to submit our exit orders. So because it's true, as soon as we enter that trade, we submit our profit and our stop orders. We turn it back to false. So now the only condition that is going to be true, that is going to allow our profit and our stop orders to keep resubmitting, is only when it's the first tick of a new bar. So we're able to protect ourselves right away, and now it's only going to update on a new bar. Now, one thing I like to do just to ensure that boolean is always getting set back to false, just in case anything happens within the strategy, let's just create a third set, and this is just going to ensure all of your variables are reset so they're ready for that next trade. So add strategy current market position is equals to strategy market position flat. So when we are in a flat position, just go to add MISC and set initial entry, and we are changing this back to false. So once we have that, let's hit compile. We're going to go to our chart, right click, strategies. We go to the ATR order management, and here you can see your ATR period if you want to change that around, your position quantity, your profit, and your stop multipliers. So I'm just going to leave everything as is, and we're going to hit enable. So here you can see it seems to be entering orders with these NinjaTrader bars. Let me just disable this. I do recommend, if you're using NinjaTrader, this will work on minute charts, Heiken, Ashi, whatever you want. I'm just using this as an example. But especially with Renko or NinjaTrader, just change the historical fill processing to high. It'll make the entries a little bit more realistic. So let's hit enable again. All right, so now it's at the top of the candle where that entry should be. So we can see it's taking that first profit target, it's going to our stop loss. So everything seems to be working. Remember, we only have the longs for now. So yeah, we entered 2 profit targets, and I'm just going to run it just to make sure it's working.
Order canceled.
Oh, that one went a little bit too fast. Okay. All right, so here we enter an order. Let me move this out of the way. So we had our green bars in a row. It was above the SMA when we finally entered the order. So we have our first profit target, that is long profit 1. Our second profit target is long profit 2. And you can see both of these are split into 2 separate orders, but they're at the same value, so they're going to move together. And that way, when you hit the first profit target, it just cancels that first order. If you get stopped out, hit the second profit target, it'll cancel that order as well. All right, so we can see our initial stop and our initial profit targets are working. Now we're going to get a little bit more complicated. We're going to start trailing that stop as the price moves up. So I'll show you how to do that right now. All right, back in our strategy builder, let's hit the back button and go to our inputs and variables page. Now, what do we need for a trail stop? First thing we need is how much do we want to trail our stop by? So we need another multiplier, but we also need to know when do we want to start trailing. So do we want to start trailing immediately? Do we want to hit a certain threshold and only then will we start trailing? So this is where we're going to define that. So I'm going to add, we're going to say trail target start. So this will tell us when we reach this threshold, then our trail is going to start. So this one is going to be a double, and it's going to work the same as any other multiplier. We're using the same ATR targets. So minimum, let's change that to 0.1. And when do I want to start trailing? Let's say, I don't know, 0.7 ATR, we're going to start trailing our stop. And then we need a multiplier for our actual trail stop order. This is going to be our current price, where our stop is getting set out for the trail stop, and it's going to constantly move that amount. So add trail stop multiplier. And again, this is a double, minimum 0.1. Default can be, I don't know, let's do 2.5. We'll give it a little bit more room. Now, just like our initial profit, initial stop, we are going to need a separate variable that is going to store these values for our use later on in the strategy. So go to add, so store trail target. This will be a double. And we also need store trail stop. This will also be a double. And another thing is, much like the initial entry, we should only be updating it once per bar. We can update it intra-bar as it's going, similar like it is in the Predator. But the problem is we are very limited with Strategy Builder order handling. This will almost certainly cause some sort of an error if you're trading it using, let's say, Apex or any sort of Rhythmic account. I see this a lot. If you're updating constantly without something to check if the order's been accepted or not, this will cause a problem. There's no way for us to do that on Builder. So for that reason, I'm recommending only update once per bar. So for the trail stop, we're going to need 2 bools. One for our initial trail stop, and then one to keep updating it over and over. So don't worry, I'm going to show you how all of that works. But for now, just to save time, I'm going to do a trigger trail stop. So when it first triggers, this is going to be our bool. This is going to get set to false. And then we need one for our trail stop update. This is also going to be a bool, and it's going to be false as well. Once we have that, we should have everything we need. So now this next part is going to get just a little bit tricky. So if you've been following along so far, pause the video here, go for a coffee, deal with the kids, do what you need to, then come back to it with a fresh state of mind, and we're gonna dive right into it.
Oh no, I just need to get a little blood pumping in the old noodle.
So from here, I'm just going to next, and I'm going to add a new set. what I'm going to do is set number 3, the one we made for our flat condition, I'm going to constantly keep moving this to the end. This is going to be the last set at any given time. So if you see me add new sets, just assume the market position flat is always going to be the last one. So now it's set number 4. As we add more sets, it's always going to be the last. So go back to our empty set number 3. First thing we need is we got to make sure we are in a long position. So I'm going to go to set number 2. I'm just going to copy our market position long just to save a little bit of time. And I'm going to paste it right in there. All right, once we're in a long position, we need to make sure our current closing price goes above our threshold, and then we're going to start trailing our stop. So the best way to do that, go to add, price, close, bars to go 0, that is the most current price, is greater or equal to our user variable, and we go to our store trail target. Before we get too ahead of ourselves, we need to define the store trail target, and we do that back in set number 1. So I'm just going to add misc, and I'm going to store trail target, and just like we did before, add price, the close. Make sure we add because it's going to be above our price. So add indicator, scroll down to the ATR, plot on chart if you want, it's already plotted, period 14, we change that to our ATR period user input, multiply, and we're going to add our trail target start. So we just hit OK. Once we have that, let's go back to our set number 3. So when our close goes above the target we define in set number 1, and very important, so we're not calculating multiple sets at the exact same time, let's add a condition to make sure our initial entry is equals to misc false. So only after we enter our initial order, have our initial profit and stop, only then can it start looking at this set as well. Now remember back in set number 2, we have to have a condition, whether it's the first tick of the bar or we have a bool that has triggered. Well, we're going to do something very similar on set number 3. We're adding a group, if any, and same thing, we're only going to check this once per bar. So we do that by going to misc is first tick of bar is equals to true. Now we're also adding one of our bools, and it's going to look a little bit different. If our trail stop update is currently equals to misc and false as well. So if it has not started updating, if it has not updated yet, or it's the first tick of bar, our code is good to calculate. Now in this set, we're not submitting any exit orders. We're just defining the value of our trail stop. So go to the following, misc, we're going to set store trail stop. And just like the other ATRs, we're going to go to price, close 0. And remember, this is a long stop. So price, stop underneath. So minus indicator, ATR, plot on the chart, change the period of this one as well. And we're going to multiply this by our user input, and that is our trail stop multiplier. Hit OK, 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 OK. And now we defined where our trail stop is going to be. Once we have this, let's make sure we set our Boolean. This time we're looking at the trigger trail update. We have crossed the threshold. We have now triggered our trail stop. So trigger trail stop is going to turn to true. All right, so at this point, our trail stop has been triggered. Now, one thing that can happen depending on your settings is we have our initial stop here. The price is up here. It has triggered that trail stop, but our trail stop value is down here. So we don't want our initial stop to come down here where it would expose us to even more loss. So we only want to start trailing once our stop starts moving up in value. So we're going to add another condition to make sure we are only triggering if we're locking in more profit. So add, we're basically just making sure our new value is going to be greater than the previous value. So what I like to do is go to price, close, minus, and again, we're doing the whole ATR thing. So ATR, plot on chart, user input, ATR period, multiply by our trail stop multiplier. We want to make sure this new value is greater than our stored trail stop value. So only when the new value is going to be greater than the previously stored value, we are good to update our value once again. Now, to make sure we are updating properly, when we enter a trade, so that is set number 1, I'm just going to add MISC. I'm going to set our store trail stop. I'm going to define that one under our current stop price. So store stop. So if it's getting a little bit confusing, basically when I'm entering, I just want to make sure our current trail stop value is the same as our stop value up here, whatever that may be. Make sure when you're doing this, it is under the store stop value. That way this gets updated first, this gets updated second. So then when you come to set number 3 and it's ready to start trailing, we're making sure our new trail stop is going to be greater than that value. And before we move on, the last thing we need with set number 3, once we trigger our trail stop, we must make sure we're no longer looking at set 1 or 2. So let's go back set number 2 and we'll make a condition. So user variable trigger trail stop is equals to MISC, and we go to false. So only when it has not been triggered, we are looking at set number 2. Once we turn it true, we're no longer looking at set 2, or we'll paste the same one in here, 1 or 2. So now that we have all of that defined, let's create a new set. Remember, the flat one gets moved to the end, and I'm just working with set number 4. And this is where we're actually going to submit our new trail stop orders. So to start off, again, I need to make sure we are in a long position. So I'm just going to paste that from the previous set. We need to make sure our initial entry is set to false. So I'm going to copy that from set number 1. Just right click, copy. Make sure we are not in the initial entry. And we want to make sure we are only submitting a new trail stop order only after our trail stop has been triggered. So how we do that, I go to add, user variables, scroll down to our trigger trail stop is equals to MISC, and we select true. So once we are triggered, we are looking at this set. But now again, comparing to our initial entry where we're only setting our orders once per bar, we have to create those conditions for a second time. So now we're going to group we want to make sure if any is selected, add MISC is first tick of bar is equals to MISC true, or if we go user variables, our trail stop update, this is when we're first updating that initial trail stop. If that one is equals to MISC, user input false. So this is basically just checking if it has not updated for the first time. So as soon as it hits your threshold, it's going to move that stop up intra-bar, so while the bar is still forming. But once that initial trail stop is triggered, it's only going to move once anytime a new bar opens. Once we have that, hit OK. And now we can submit our exit orders. So now that we're working with a whole new set, set number 2 no longer applies once we get to our trail stops. We still need to keep resubmitting that initial profit target. So what we do, go back to set number 2. I'm just going to copy our exit long limits. So paste them back in set number 4. And do that for limit number 1 and number 2. Now we're going to do the same for our stop market orders. So just copy 1 and then copy number 2. But the only difference is now we're going to update our stop orders to our new trail stop value. So just click on one of them, go to the stop price. Now we're going to select the store trail stop. So hit OK. And we're doing that for both of them. So store stop gets changed to store trail stop. And then once we have that initial update, I'm just going to turn our trail stop update to true. That way, anytime after that, it's only updating once per bar. So go to MISC, trail stop update, and we're going to check mark it to turn it true. That should be pretty much all we need for the longs. I just want to make sure when we first enter our initial order that all of these trail stop bools are always going to be false. That way we're not accidentally triggering any of these sets from a previous trade. So I'm just going to set number 1 and I'm going to add MISC. I'm going to set my trigger trail stop, leave it unchecked to make sure it's false. And I'm doing that for the update as well. This will just help protect us a little bit. And I'm also going to add these to our last set, the flat position. So just copy, paste that in here. It just helps protect us in all scenarios. So once we have all of that, let's just review really quick. We have our conditions, we enter into a trade, we store our profit, our stop, and our trail stop values. We submit our profit and stop orders based on those values. Then once we enter our initial orders, we are looking for our trail stop threshold. Once we cross that threshold and our stop is going to be moving higher, then we define a new value for our new trail stop. And then we just submit our new orders based on those values. And all of this is only updating once on each new bar to help prevent any order handling errors. So let's just hit compile and reload this on the chart, play it and see how it works. And then we're going to do the same, but for the shorts as well. All right, so just disable and re-enable. We can see we enter long here. We have our first profit target. And then you can see our second target got stopped out with a trail stop. Now let's move up here. Same thing, this one got stopped out, a little bit less. So it seems to be working. As we hit our profit target, it seems to be trailing as the price is moving up. Let's just hit play and run this on the playback. Slow this down a little bit. That's a little too fast.
Order submitted.
All right, so here we entered an order. We'll see if it hits a profit target or just stops us out right away. Again, guys, I'm not saying trade like this. I just made random conditions so we would actually trigger a trade. You would add this to your own trading bot.
Order submitted.
All right, so here, once it hit that threshold, you could see it moved our stop up from its initial entry point.
Order canceled.
So now as it goes up, you're going to see the trail stop keeps moving up. Or it's just going to stop us out again.
Order
Yes.
canceled. Order canceled.
This is obviously not the best time to look for longs, but we are going to do the same but for the short side in just a minute.
Order canceled. Order canceled.
All right, so here you can see as the price moves up, it just moves the trail stop up with it. So that is how the longs work. Again, this is probably not a good strategy, but I'm going to do the same thing, but for the short side now, so we can see a complete long and short bot. Let's go back to our strategy builder. And how I like to do the short side, it's very easy. I'm not going to rebuild everything one by one. I'm just going to go to set number 1, make a copy. And again, remember the flat one, just pushing it to the end. So set number 5. So all I'm doing is just changing anything that was for the long side. I'm just flipping it to the other side. So click on the conditions. I'm going to change this to short. And all my conditions, I'm going to say anything that is greater, I'm changing it to less than. So just all of these. I want to make sure we are getting red candles for this one. Less or equal. If it's the high, I'm changing it to the low. And I want to make sure we are less than the SMA. The bulls, everything else can stay the same. That is perfectly okay. But now I'm just going to change any enter long. We need to change this to enter short. So remember quantity 1 and long entry, we're changing to short entry 1. Enter short, default quantity, quantity 2, short entry 2, store profit 1. We can reuse all of these. And very easy, you don't have to reselect everything. You can just change the plus to a minus. This is because we're going short, our profit target is down here. So just make sure it's a minus instead of a plus for the short profits. And then the complete opposite for a stop, because now it's above the price. We just change this to a plus. Initial entry, that can stay the same. Our trail trigger, that's a minus. And everything else looks good. Let's make a copy of set number 2. So again, just move this. And it's set number 6. So now we have to make sure we are in a short market position. Condition 1, all the bulls, all the first tick of bar, that's perfectly okay. Now we just need to change our profit and our stop orders. So exit short by a limit order. Short entry 1 is the entry signal. Limit price will be our store profit 1. Quantity, user input quantity 1. signal name, short, profit 1. Profit 1. So exit short by limit order, short entry 2. Limit price, store profit 2. Quantity, quantity 2. Short profit 2. Same thing for the stop orders. So exit short by a stop order. Entry signal, short entry 1. Signal name is short stop 1. Stop price, again, just our store stop. And for the last one, our stop number 2, exit short, short entry 2, user input, quantity 2, signal name, short stop 2, stop price, we can do that, stop, store stop. The bool, perfectly fine. Let's copy set number 3. And again, set number 7. We must make sure we are in a short position. So for our trail trigger, again, we have to make sure we are going down. This is a short position. So less equal to our store trail target. Initial entry, false, perfect, conditions, all of that's good. Now we just have to make sure our new stop order value is going to be above, so plus, and it's also going to be less than the current trail stop value. So again, just making sure it's actually above the current price, but it's going to be less than our current trail stop value. So trail stop value gets updated. Again, make sure we're on the correct side of the market, or else you're going to run into problems. Once we have that, let's copy set number 4. Just like the previous, we make sure we're short. All of these conditions, perfectly okay. Now we just have to update all of our orders. So what I'm going to do is just delete all of these. And I'm going to go to set number 6 and just copy these like we did last time. So set number 6. That way we don't have to retype everything again. And remember, just because our profit targets are the same, our stop order needs to get updated to the new value. So click on those, store trail stop. And we do that for both of our targets. All right, that should be everything that we need. All I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each set. I'm just going to add one last piece of code so we can see it on the Ninja script output and we can understand how and when this is executing. So you don't have to do this part, but just for a visual, it does help a little bit. So set 1, going to add, and I'm going to add a time series. And I'm just going to copy that for each separate set and change it to the set that we're working with. Three, And this is good, especially if you're having any sort of problem where something might not be updating properly, you're getting a weird order handling issue. It's good to look at the set that you're working with. And also, if you're having any sort of calculation problem, print out each one of these values for each set. That way you know when stuff is getting updated, and if something is not calculating properly, you know where to find that. But for now, I'm just going to do this. Set number 6. That's not set number 6. What I'm going to do is copy that one, move that to set number 6. This one, because it's flat, it's going to keep getting updated all the time. I don't want to flood the output with it. So I'm just going to hit compile. We're going to run this on the chart one more time just to see how it works. All right, so let's disable, re-enable, and we should see our longs and our short orders. And you can see all the historical trades getting filled there. So we can see here we have a short order and it's still ongoing. If you see your strategy is in yellow, like it is here, that just means there's a historical trade still going on. It hasn't finished processing. So this trade hasn't hit a stop or a profit target. Once it runs to where it would have hit it, then it's going to turn to green. So that's all it is. It just hasn't finished calculating. And it won't until the price actually hits that profit or stop order. So we have our longs, perfect. Our short order, so it seems to hit it and then it starts trailing down to where we lock in some profit. Same thing down here. Here we had another short entry. Perfect, hits the both profit orders and it seems to be trailing properly. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this on the playback one more time. All right, so I'm just going to re-enable it here. And see, our strategy is still in yellow. That means we entered a trade that hasn't finished. I'm just going to play it.
Order submitted.
Once it would have stopped up, turns to green, our strategy progresses in real time. So let me expand this. And I'm just going to run it. So we can see we entered a short order, first profit target, second target, and our stop order.
Order canceled.
And as the price goes down, it starts trailing our stop down with the ATR. So there it hit our second, and then it's just going to keep re-entering, whether it's long or short.
Order canceled.
So as we go long, it trails our stop up.
Order canceled.
Go short, trails it down.
Order submitted.
So that's how it works. Let's run it on a regular minute chart just so we can see it working on something else as well. So I'm just going to change this 1 minute, that's fine. So I'm just going to enable it.
Order canceled.
Here we entered a trade. It hit our first profit target already. So now we just have our second.
Order canceled.
All right.
Order canceled.
So here on a minute chart again, enter short, starts trailing down. And if we look at our Ninja script output, let's just look at the time of entry, 7:54. So that is 7:54, set number 5 got executed. Again, 7:54, set number 6 got executed. That is the same exit and stop order. So those are good to be executed once. Then 7:55, again, it was only set number 6 because we haven't hit that trail threshold yet. Until later in 7:55, we hit number 7. That is when these conditions were true. It updated our stop to our trail stop. Then set number 8 got executed. That is the actual trail stop order. And then any set after that has been set number 8 once we reach a new threshold. So once our trail stop will put us more into profit. That didn't happen until 7:58. So right around here, probably near the bottom, that is when it updated our value once again. So anytime, as long as we're going more into profit, it's just going to keep updating set number 7 and set number 8. So there, as you could see, it was starting to go down. 7, 8, 7, 8.
Order canceled.
So that is how we set up our ATR profit, stop, and trail stop orders. I hope you guys found this video useful. As always, take care, enjoy.